That is great. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Good.
All right. We tried this earlier. I'm going to try one more technical trick, and hopefully this works. I'm going to share my screen, and we'll see if this works. Because I got a little keynote presentation. I hope.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, great. And you can see me hopefully down in the corner there. I've got a little picture, so you don't lose me. Welcome everybody. So my name is Adam Christianson. We're going to do a little thing. I can advance the slide here because I'll do my little intro on who I am and why you may or may not know me. Um, my name is Adam Christianson. I was for 19 years the host of a podcast called the Maccast, which was, I believe, maybe disputed, but I'm pretty sure it was the first Apple related podcast back in 2004. There were some other streaming radio shows you may be familiar with, Your Mac Life, and trying to remember the name of the other show. There were a few streaming on things like Real Audio, if you've been around long enough to know what Real Audio was back in the day, uh, pre-podcast stuff. But I was the first official Mac podcast. And you can still find that at maccast.com. You'll find it on Apple Podcasts and your favorite podcast app. But when I retired from that last year, I joined the crew, Dave Hamilton and Pilot Pete over at the Mac Geek Gab podcast. So you'll now find me weekly on macgeekgab.com. And I'm also at Maccast just about on every other social media platform you can imagine. So if you want to find me there. But I've been involved with Apple and Mac stuff for probably 30 years now, I would imagine. Officially 19 years with the podcast and so forth. And so I was graciously invited to come present to you, and we went back and forth on some topics and some ideas. And we landed on one of the things that we try to do with the Mac Geek Gab is give tips, tricks, answer technical questions every week from listeners, and try and generally help people out with their Apple technology, which was great because that's kind of what I tried to do with the Maccast as well. So it was kind of a good transition for me. And so what we're going to do today is through some recent questions that we had on Mac Geek Gab. And I don't know, I'm hoping, and you guys can tell me if this is a bad idea or not, but what I'd like to do is I like things to be interactive. I don't want to just be me kind of preaching and talking to you all. So what I thought might be kind of fun is take some of the recent questions we got. I'll show you what the question was. I'll throw it to you. If any one of you wants to take a stab at trying to answer one of these questions, you're welcome to. You don't have to. If you don't, we'll just go on and I'll give you our answer. But if somebody feels like, hey, I know the answer to that, it'd be great to get your answer and then find out how that compares to our answer. So we'll just run through some of these. And the first one is, how do I stop windows from enlarging when I drag them in Mac OS 15? And I'll give you a little background on this one. So in Mac OS 15, a lot of people discovered when they were in the Finder. Oh, I probably just changed my screen here. When they were in the Finder and they would drag a window close to the edge of the screen, it would automatically resize and lock. And that became really confusing and really frustrating for a lot of people. So, does anybody know what this is and how you might solve this problem? Linda does, it sounds like. So, you're muted if you want to unmute and maybe.
I had this issue, pardon me, and I think my dear husband helped me figure it out. There's a setting in settings. What used to be, let's see, what's it called now? They've changed the name. System settings.
Yep.
There's a setting there. I would have to, let's see if I can find it.
I'll
Uh,
help you if you
it's
if you don't remember, but you're
was
on
it
the right
in
track.
dis was it displays? Charles, do you
No,
remember?
not
Was not
displays.
displays. Wasn't accessibility. It's whatever would be screen. So I'm gonna cheat and do a screen, I think, right? Change. No, that's screen time, screensaver.
Nope.
Charles, go ahead.
This
Would
is
you like a hint or to phone a friend? I can give you a hint.
All right.
well, I'm going to cheat and use my Apple knowledge here, Apple employee knowledge here. This is a desktop setting.
Desktop. Okay.
Yep.
You have to go into the system settings to desktop and dock.
Desktop and dock. There you go.
Because that's obvious, right? Because you're dealing with the Finder, so of course it's desktop and dock.
Right.
And yeah.
And if you scroll down far enough, you'll actually get to a section that says Windows.
Drag windows to menu bar to fill screen is what it says.
Yep.
And turn that off. And it makes that
Yes.
thing go away. It was driving me crazy. It's just only
Yes.
in one app. It was
Yeah.
just, I mean, I think it was Safari. It's driving me nuts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you are not alone. So you got basically the right answer. How do I stop windows from enlarging when I drag them in iOS 15? You want to disable the Windows tiling settings. So this is a new feature in macOS 15 called Windows tiling. It is in system settings, desktop and dock under the Windows section. And there's actually several options that you may want to turn off. Drag windows to the edge of the screen to tile, drag windows to the menu bar to fill the screen. So if you drag it up to the menu bar, it'll actually expand to fill the entire screen. Hold the Option key while dragging to tile windows. So this allows you, basically what this setting is it allows you to, as you're dragging, you don't have to get it all the way to the edge of the screen. If you hold down the Option key, it will automatically tile when you go slightly to the left or slightly to the right. And the tiled windows have margins. And what that means is when you do activate this tiling, you can have a little margin between the windows instead of the windows tiling, edge to edge next to each other. So
Okay.
very, very annoying. Now, there's another part of this tip, and I tested this when I was prepping for this presentation. And this did not work for me, much to my chagrin, because I think this would be a great feature. So supposedly, according to a number of websites, if you hold down the Option key while dragging a window and you have this feature not disabled but still enabled, it's supposed to stop it from tiling. It did not work for me. So I'm not buying this one. We did cover it on the podcast and say that this worked. I tested it, did not work for me. So if you can get it to work for you, great, but it did not work for me. The only way to stop this from working was to actually go into these settings and disable them in the system preferences.
So what are tiled window margins?
So I will show you here. Let me see if you can see. If I switch over to the Finder here, can you see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay. So let me open a new Finder window. So I have a couple of these. Okay, so this is the feature. When I drag this to the edge, is it going to do it? Okay, yeah, it'll do it over here. You kind of see how that gray box comes up and I let go and it tiles it to that edge. I think because I have multiple screens, it's not doing it on this edge, but let me hold down the Option key, see if I can get it to force it to do it. There we go. So if I drag this and I let go, it's going kind of slow. You going to do it for me? I think because I'm sharing my screen, it's doing some weird stuff, but hello. Wow.
So it's the space in between.
It's the space in between. Yeah. So if I were to drag this, I can't get this other window to tile, but basically it's going to put a gap between the two windows. If you disable that, I believe it will eliminate that gap. So if you don't like the gap between your windows, then you won't, yeah, you can kind of see that it's ghosting and it's wanting to make that gap, but it's not happy with me sharing the screen and Zoom. There we go. See the little gap between the two windows? If you don't want that gap, I think if you turn off that feature, it will actually flush them edge to edge. So you don't have that little, what is that, 10, 20 pixel gap. So if you don't like that, Some people don't want gaps between their windows, I would assume. Trying to find my Zoom because I'm gonna, excuse me, I'm gonna cough here a little bit. So that was recent question that we got. That's the kinds of things that we hear from people. Any questions, further questions, comments about that? Moving on. Next question. Does using iCloud Drive and Backblaze, which is an online backup service, cause problems? Any thoughts or ideas on this from anybody?
I'm
Nope.
guessing yes, because otherwise it would be a dumb question.
It's actually not you're partially right, actually. It is not a dumb question. This actually came up because we had somebody ask a question about syncing services, and what they had heard was if I have a syncing service, say like Box and Dropbox or uh, iCloud and Google Docs or Google Drive, excuse me, or what's the one from? So Google's got theirs. Any of these services that will take a folder or a volume on your Mac and sync it to the cloud. Is there an issue if I'm using multiple of those services and I'm basically syncing the same volume or the same folder? And in that instance, there is a potential danger. You don't want two services syncing because if you have a change happening, say on your Google Drive, and then iCloud's trying to sync it at the same time, you can end up with conflicts. And so, yes, that's definitely a problem. So this was a follow-on question, and somebody said, well, what if I'm using a backup service like Backblaze and I have my iCloud drive and that's syncing and now I'm backing up my iCloud drive? Is that a problem? And the actual answer is no in this instance, because Backblaze is a backup service and it's actually one directional. So it's taking the stuff that's on your Mac or in your iCloud drive and it is simply backing it up to Backblaze as a backup service. It's not trying to do the opposite and then sync stuff that might change on Backblaze back to your system. So it's different than syncing. And you definitely wouldn't want two different syncing services syncing or trying to sync the same directory, because then you can end up with sync conflicts or issues and that sort of thing. Now, what followed out of this was with a backup service, you do want to be careful to make sure that it's actually backing up things. And the place where this came into play was in your iCloud settings on your Mac. And this is also true for photos. If you're doing iCloud photo syncing, Apple offers a feature called Optimize Storage. And the way that Optimize Storage works is it says basically, hey, if I'm running out of storage on my Mac locally, so your local drive and your local storage, and I need more space, well, if I'm using iCloud syncing or photo syncing, hey, those things are in the cloud. So, if I have an old file or a set of old files, say locally on my Mac that have been around for a long time, but they're already up in the cloud, well, hey, Mac, go ahead, and that's okay. You can remove the local versions of those off of my local hard drive and then go ahead and use that space for newer files, because guess what? I already have a copy in iCloud, and if I need that copy back, I can just sync that back from iCloud. Well, the problem with that, if you're using backup, local backup, say you're using a carbon copy cloner, or I think they call it CCC backup now, or you're using Backblaze to back up to the cloud, or you're using even Time Machine, for example. The issue there is that you don't have a local copy of that file anymore. So your backup has nothing to back up in that instance. That file now only exists in the cloud. So you do need to be careful and understand that If you are doing local backups, you need to have local copies of all those files for those to actually be backed up. And so you need to be careful when you're using online syncing services that, especially like iCloud, that offer this optimized storage thing, that you make sure that you maintain your local copies. So my recommendation and our recommendation is for your primary local backups that you make sure that whichever machine that you're backing up to always has a full local copy. So you don't necessarily want to set up optimized storage on that. So, like for example, for me, my iOS devices, I allow to optimize storage. My main Mac, where I have my iCloud backup or my Time Machine backup rather, and my CCC backup, I always make sure I've turned off optimized storage both in Photos and in iCloud to make sure that I always have full local copies of all of my files on those Macs and then let those back up to local backup. So that was the answer there. And hopefully that makes sense. Is there any questions on that? I know that can be a little bit confusing.
Where does that where you get optimized store, where is that selected?
Ah, okay.
Optimized
So,
storage.
yep, we can definitely show that. Let me go back to my Finder here, bring up my settings. So on iOS, it's a little bit different, but we can show this on the Mac. If I can get my settings open, everything's moving a little bit slowly. So in settings, you're going to want to go under your, I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering this correctly, under your account into iCloud.
Okay.
And then I believe it's under your managed storage settings, hopefully, if I'm remembering this right. Apple keeps moving these things around on us, which is the other fun thing that I love that they do. And then it's probably under iCloud Drive, I'm assuming, maybe not. That is a great question. Let me see if I search for it. Optimize.
Well, in Photos, there's a setting
Yeah, it's
typically
in
for
photo.
Photos, for iCloud
Yep.
Photos library. And that's in the Mac Photos app.
I'm checking here. Storage.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a photos feature, and the setting for that is going to be in the iCloud settings and the Photos tab.
Yep. And then I don't know where they moved it to. It used to just be right there in iCloud settings, but hold on, let me see.
It's in the, it may be there somewhere, but it's also in the Photos app itself.
Oh yeah, that's for photos specifically, but
Yeah,
I'm trying
photos.
to think of
I'm not
iCloud
sure.
if you're using desktop and document storage.
Yeah, I'm not
So
sure
I
if
might
it's
have to
available
Google
for
it.
anything else.
That maybe this change.
No, it's saying it is in system settings general.
General storage.
Yep. Which is here.
That does no
If you scroll up slightly,
Uh,
there it is.
storing iCloud.
Yeah, I just clicked on that and I didn't see the optimize button. So maybe they got rid of it, but I thought it was still there.
I'm seeing it right under there. I see storage, store in iCloud, and right under it, optimize storage, and then empty trash automatically. So you, for
Yeah,
some
maybe they
reason, you're
changed
missing
it.
that.
Maybe they changed it in, are you running Sonoma or Sequoia?
Yes, I'm running 15.4.1.
15.
Oh,
Yeah, same here.
I don't know why I'm not seeing the option, but yeah, it should be here in general storage.
Hmm.
Oh, actually, that line only says it says optimized storage, but then it says save space by automatically removing movies and TV shows you've already watched from this Mac.
Yeah, and I can see like if I click my info here on iCloud Drive, there is a button that says optimize iCloud Drive, but I don't want to do that again. So you want to avoid again optimize storage on
Right.
your local
Right. Thank you
local
for,
device
yeah,
because it'll
thank
try to clear space.
you.
And obviously, if you don't have files locally, you can't back them up locally. That kind of was the point of that tip.
Right. Anyway, thank you.
All right. This was a great one. And I'm blocking my thing. What is the difference between sign in with Apple versus hide my email?
Good question.
Anybody know the answer to that one?
I think I
Well,
do.
All right.
So sign in with Apple is going to use my Apple email address, which I've had for 15 years, blah, blah, blah at mac.com. But hide my email, I just tap that button and Apple creates a phony email address for me so I can easily discard it. But the mail that is sent to that message still arrives nicely in my inbox.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, I got
Winner.
one.
Very much a winner. Yeah. So these are two different services offered through your Apple iCloud account. Sign in with Apple is a service that allows you to use your Apple ID to log in to third-party site websites and apps. And so the underlying technology behind this is something called tokenization. You might hear this referred to as OAuth or OAuth 2. And the idea is that modern websites now can be programmed in a way where they can use third-party services. And you see this with sign in with Apple, sign in with Facebook, sign in with Google, sign in with, I don't know, I think Twitter has one or X, TikTok, like anybody can create one of these systems. And the idea is that when you go to a website and you need an account or you need a login, rather than creating a login directly with that third party service, you can opt to use a service that you already know and trust, like Apple. And so what happens is when you click the sign in with Apple button, it actually directs you to Apple's website and Apple's servers. You sign in with your Apple ID, with your known password. And then what Apple does is they authenticate that you have an account with Apple. You are who you say you are. You know how to log into your account. And then they generate a token. So rather than signing you up for an account and giving that third party service all of your information and uh, creating a password on that site, they just say, yes, we're Apple. We verified that this person is who they say they are. We checked their ID at the door and they should be allowed to access your site. They send back a token and also a little bit of information. Generally, they do need to send back typically an email address. And that's where the hide my email address comes into play because you can use this in conjunction with sign in with Apple. But they generally need an email address and then sometimes your name, basic information so that they can actually create an account on that third party service. Um, but they never have your password information and you're always going through Apple to authenticate to log into that website. Hide my email does exactly as was just described. It creates an email alias, a fake email address that's not your your actual email address, and then that is provided to the third-party service. Like I said, you can use this with sign in with Apple. It'll say, hey, do you want, when you create a sign in with Apple account, do you want to also hide your email address? So rather than giving them your actual like at iCloud.com email address, it generates a fake one that's tied to your iCloud account. That third-party services then gets that email, and then when they try to email you, either spam or your forgot password reset email or whatever, that email is then relayed. It's sent to iCloud, and iCloud goes, oh, I know whose email this is. This is actually Adam's email. So it forwards on that email to you. What's great about this is both of these things can be then managed under your iCloud account. And so, say you're using a third party service, and you know what? I don't want an account with that service anymore. You don't even have to go back to that service to delete your account. You can actually go into your system settings under your username, and then you'll see a little section called Sign In with Apple. You can see all of the websites and services that you use Sign In with Apple with, and you can actually just revoke your access from there. Same thing with your email aliases that you've created through Hide My Email. Here, you have to go to iCloud.com. You can log into your account at iCloud.com, and then you can manage these under, there's a little settings icon, looks like a little cog, just like your settings on your Mac. Click on that. You can click on Hide My Email, and then you can see all of the email addresses that have been generated for Hide My Email. And you can also remove or delete those. So if you don't want to get email from those addresses anymore. So now you've kind of managed and maintained everything under your iCloud account, and you don't have to have all these extra accounts all over the place. I mean, you still have those accounts, but you log into them through your Apple ID. So very convenient, very nice service, keeps your stuff very secure. And it's really neat. So that's kind of the differences between those two services.
Adam, somebody in chat has said, I never get the choice of signing in with Apple. There's usually a sign in with Facebook, which I'm not on. How do you get sign in with Apple?
So yeah, that's the thing, is the individual website has to choose to implement and support that service. So Facebook and Google are a little more prominent. More and more sites are getting sign in with Apple, but yeah, you'll see sign in with Apple, I think, a lot more commonly inside apps, dedicated apps versus websites, but it is available to both. But yeah, it is up to the individual website to implement support for it. So that's probably why you see it less frequently, unfortunately. Any other comments, questions? All right. This one is very timely and kind of relates to some of the stuff that I think, Linda, you covered in your news a little bit, relating to tariffs. With the potential for price increases due to tariffs, should I buy a new Mac now? So do I buy now in hopes that I'm not going to get price increases coming up? What would your advice be there?
I'm waiting with bated breath for this answer.
All right. So where we were at with it is buy a new Mac when you need a new Mac. This is my long-standing advice. I brought this up many, many times on my podcast because people would always ask. I mean, this question even comes up related to, hey, is there a new chip coming out tomorrow? Or there's the latest rumors going on, or, you know, the world is always an uncertain place. And prices are going to kind of go up and down, but we even talked a little bit about how historically, what did you pay for a Mac in 1984 versus what you would pay for a Mac today in terms of true dollars, not accounting for inflation. And even with accounting for inflation, you're probably paying less now than you were in 1984 overall. So, prices are kind of relative. Overall, yes. I mean, if you're really worried about the tariffs and you're ready to buy a new Mac, um, then, it might be a good time to buy. There are some other options, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But, overall, I think the best overall advice is, if you don't need a Mac, do you want to rush and really spend a lot of money buying a new one now just because you think you're going to save some money in the short term? Who knows, a year, 2 years from now when you really might need a new Mac, what prices might look like. So, in theory, you could end up spending more, maybe, who knows, but it's all speculative. So if you want to buy in speculation, I guess you can do that. But overall, my general advice, buy a new Mac when you need a new Mac. If you don't need one, save your money, spend it on something else. Go on a vacation and enjoy something else with that. Um, Also, the other related device to this is related to another question we get asked a lot. How much RAM should I buy? How much storage should I buy? Which processor should I buy? Right? People often wonder all these things. And my general advice, our general advice on that is buy the best machine you can afford at the time. And that comes down to longevity. The one exception to this would be if you're just a person who wants the newest, latest, greatest thing, and you're going to buy a Mac every year or 2 years, then maybe it's less relevant. But I'm using what am I running now? A 2019. I still have an Intel Mac. It still works great for me. It runs every day. It does everything that I need it to do. Do I want a new M4 machine? You betcha. Do I need a new M4 machine right now? If I'm honest with myself, I really don't. Um, so, that goes back to that first thing, but definitely I'm getting by with my machine because I made sure that I got a terabyte of storage, which is what I thought I needed. I made sure I got, 16 gigs of RAM, and I got the better processor. And so that adds to the longevity. So buy the best machine you can afford at the time is, hey, if you can afford 32 gigs of RAM, buy 32 gigs of RAM. If you can afford 2 terabytes of storage, buy 2 terabytes of storage. If it's not gonna hurt you, because in the long run, I think we've all learned over the years, we're gonna use as much storage as we have. We're gonna push our machines as much as we can. When new software and new technologies come out, AI is a great example of this. Apple's AI technologies take more RAM. So you're going to be happy if you have more RAM in the long run, 2, 3 years down the line. So even if you don't need it today, you might need it in the future, and you'll be happy that you have it. Especially considering, as we all know, that Apple, we can't upgrade our storage. We can't upgrade our RAM anymore. We used to be able to do that back in the day, but you're kind of stuck with what you buy today. So buy the best machine you can afford at the time. Buy a new Mac when you need a new Mac. We can all speculate on a million things, but we never know what tomorrow is going to look like. So that, and if you're looking to save money, even after the tariffs, consider looking at Apple refurbished machines, because those are already in the market. They already exist. They're already here. So they're not subject to that sort of thing. So you might actually be able to save a little money if you're looking to save money, getting a refurb machine. And Apple refurb machines historically have been excellent. They're certified by Apple. They carry the same warranties, same Apple Care. So it's a good way to actually save money. Thoughts, comments, disagreements? No? Were we spot on that one?
Yeah, I bought refurbished from Mac refurbished, and I've never had any issues. So
Yeah.
and it was decent saving too. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good.
So that's how I feel about it, and it's never set me wrong.
Yeah.
So
As a generalized comment on current conditions, since we have rather maximal unpredictability at present, Just be aware that given the intensity of it, Apple is scrambling in every way they can as a corporation to figure out how to minimize its effect on its customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we may not see any price changes until the next models come out.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think if you were honestly considering buying a new Mac in the next year, then yeah, like maybe it is a good time to just jump in and pull the gun rather than, pull the trigger rather than wait. But, if you're 2, 3, 4 years out really from needing a new machine, then, I wouldn't necessarily rush into it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So another piece, how are we? We're on time. We got how much time now? 15 minutes?
Yeah, actually, another 15 is allotted, and if you needed to go over, if there's questions or whatever, you can.
I'm trying not to go over, but we can do some quick tips. So those were kind of some recent questions. Another thing that we do on the show is we cover what we call quick tips, which are exactly that. They're quick little short tips that might help you with your Mac. I want to leave a little time for general Q&A here at the end, but let's do a couple quick tips because that can be fun. So here is a quick tip that I actually discovered, and this was a big kind of pet peeve of mine, especially considering iPhones and how easy it is to take screenshots. I don't know if any of you take screenshots with your iPhone or screenshots on your Mac, but you may or may know that these days screenshots wind up in your photo library. And I don't know about you, but when I'm browsing my photo library, like wanting to see pictures of my pets and my kids and my travels and just my life in general, the screenshots aren't my favorite thing to see in there, especially in the general photo library. So I discovered there's actually a way to hide screenshots in photos on iOS. So if you open up the Photos app and you go into your main library, there's a button, and I didn't know what this button was called until I found this tip, but it's called the filter icon. It looks like a little round icon, and it has an up arrow and a down arrow on it. And it's, again, in your main photo library on iOS. If you click on the filter icon, and you'll see an option that says View Options. If you click on View Options, there are a couple different view options there, and one of them is screenshots, and that is checked by default. You can uncheck that, and now you won't see screenshots in your main photo library anymore. Amazing. I loved this one. And of course, you can always still find the screenshots in the screenshots album. So they're not lost. They're just not showing up in your main photo library anymore.
Adam, can you show us where that setting is? The filter icon,
I can maybe.
or at least can you describe it again?
Yeah, it looks like a little circle. Let me see if I can share if I can AirPlay I should be able to do this if I'm really smart.
It shows up when you scroll in the main window. It shows up down at the left.
Do you
right
have to
under
be
the
like
photo.
in library?
Yeah. You have to be in the main photo library.
It's here.
And then it's down on the bottom left, like in the sidebar?
It's an up and down arrows. It's to the left of years, months, all.
So do that. I'm sharing this screen. I don't know. Can you see my iPhone screen now?
Yeah, let me come back to where you
No,
are.
Okay.
I had to look under media types first.
Are you guys seeing my photo library here?
Yes.
Okay, so see that little icon down?
With the two arrows.
Yeah. So when you have to be in the main photo library. So like you said, when you start scrolling, you see that little circle with the two up and down arrows?
No, I don't get it. It doesn't like me.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm on the Mac, right?
No, this is on iOS.
It's on iOS.
This is an iOS tip. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's not in
I don't know if you can do this on the Mac. We can double check that here in a second. But on iOS, you tap this little circle up and down arrow icon, and then you click on that View Options, and you see how it says screenshots there. I can check that on, and now you see my screenshots, and I check that off, and then the screenshots go away.
Yeah, I'm more likely to use the Mac than iOS. Okay, I'm
Well,
gonna
let's see. Let's see if, I mean, I would assume this similar setting exists on the Mac, but I could be wrong. It's worth taking a look.
I'm sometimes very good at not seeing what's in front of my nose. So
Yeah, I see it on the iOS. I mean, yeah, on the iOS. Okay.
oh wait, there it is.
Did you find it?
You filter, yeah, on iOS, yes, screenshots, but not
Oh.
on. So it's you uncheck it, right?
You uncheck it, and then your
Right,
photos
okay,
won't
okay,
show in
I'm
your main
understanding. Yeah,
photo library. Let's see here on the Mac if we can find it.
yeah, I didn't find it at
It's
all.
probably, if I were to guess, I would think it would be in something like settings or something like that.
Well, the filter by allows you to look only at screenshots, but doesn't allow you to exclude.
So in Mac OS, it's under the View menu,
Okay,
and it's right here. It says Screenshots.
okay, hang on a second. Ah, I see. You uncheck. Yep, got it.
If you uncheck that, the screenshots go away. I don't know if you saw that screenshot that was right there just a second ago, but here, if I turn this back on, you'll see I have an iOS accidental screenshot where I screenshotted my home screen, and it ended up in my.
Yeah,
These are the ones that I hate. You know, when you're like trying to pick up your iPhone and you accidentally take a screenshot.
yeah.
So, yeah. So it's under the View menu, Photos, View menu, Screenshots. And if you
Okay.
uncheck it, they won't appear in your main library. Of course, you can go over your media types when you want and go to your Screenshots album, and then you have all your screenshots.
Right, got it. Okay, thank you.
Cool. Well, yeah, good little quick tip. Here's another good little quick tip. We had the S Lady go off downstairs. I'm assuming that's a HomePod, which HomePods are notorious for S Lady because she can hear you no matter how quiet you are. I have a large HomePod in my dining room area, and no matter how softly I say the S Lady word, that HomePod hears me. I don't know why. It can be as quiet as a mouse, and she'll hear me. But if you have an iOS device, did you know that S Lady will ignore you if you place that device face down? Yeah. So if your iOS device is face down on a table, so with screen side down, I know that horrifies some people. Hopefully, if that bothers you, you have a screen protector, but place your iPhone face down and S Lady will not respond to any of your commands. All right. Here's a nerdy one. How many people here use the terminal?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you know there is a command in the terminal called, and this is Mac OS exclusive. This is not part of any other flavor of Linux, Unix. There is a command called PB copy, stands for pasteboard copy, and it will allow you to copy the output of any command onto your clipboard. And the way you can send the output of a command on the clipboard is to use a pipe character in your command. So, for example, you can type cat myfile.txt. So if this was the name of a text file on your Mac, a cat just is a way of outputting the contents of that. And then you put the pipe character, which is that little vertical bar character that's right above your return key with a shift, and then type PB copy. What this is basically telling you to do is take the contents of the text file and copy it onto the clipboard. And then you could even go into the Finder, go into, say, a Pages app or a Notes app or a text app, and Command V and paste it. So it's basically doing the same thing as Command C to say the contents of a text file or anything else that you're doing in the command line. and copying it to the clipboard. And then once it's on the clipboard, you can use it just like you would any other contents of the clipboard that was copied to the clipboard any other way on your Mac. There also is, of course, a PB paste command in the terminal that will copy the output of take the clipboard contents and output it into your terminal.
Well, that's actually going to be very useful for me.
I use it. Here's how nerdy I am. I use it to copy my SSH key to my clipboard so I can use it for other things.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody who knows what an SSH key is. All right. And that's what I got other than Q&A. So if anybody has additional questions, comments for me, I'm open for anything you got.
This is Len, and I have a question.
Yep.
I have the last model of the Intel MacBook Pro, a high-end version of it,
Yep.
which is 2020. When Mac OS 16 is released this fall, do you think it will be fully supported, with the exception of things that require the Apple processor?
Interesting. That's a great question. So that's a 2021 model?
No, it's
You
a
said
2020.
2020.
It's the last Intel MacBook Pro, and I
I
got a
think you and
high-end
I
version of it.
I think you and I are in the same boat. I think we're right on the cusp. And I think it's going to come down to whatever Apple says, and usually when they give that announcement in June, right at WWDC.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'd go honestly. If I think it could go either way. Generally, I think Apple goes back at least 5 years. It seems like historically, sometimes longer. So that's why I'm saying kind of right on that edge. But it feels like, Apple Silicon's been around long enough that I think I wouldn't blame them for sunsetting Intel at this point. Like, I don't know if I could fault them for it.
Ouch.
I mean, 5 years is a pretty good run.
On a general level, I would say that Apple is not going to want to disconnect that quite so soon. I mean,
Yep.
yes, they could by legal requirements. They're required to do 5 years, and for hardware up to 7 years.
Yeah.
But it depends in some respects on how much engineering wants to actually remove pieces that are holding back other parts of their development.
Yep, I would
Maybe in
concur.
some cases for space reasons, although that's less common. But there are so many people out there with Intel machines at this point, especially if they're needing security updates, that Apple is, I think, more likely going to be to keep that around. And my wild ass guess would be for 7, if not 8 or 9 years. They're going to stop, new features, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think we will still see bits and bobs come for those for a bit now. Keep in mind also that if you are on a Mac, really, you're not getting any major updates on your Mac past 2 years.
Right. That's fair. Yeah, completely. And, I mean, we're not getting all the cool we're not getting Apple AI at all, obviously. I mean, there's a lot of features you're missing. So, yeah, I mean, I think I think that's right. They'll likely keep it around, but again, I don't know. I'm feeling like my Intel's kind of long in the tooth at this point, and I think it's time to step up for me to Apple Silicon at some point. And I'll tell you, like the prices on that new M4 Mac Mini, tempting to me. So
Well, that answers my question. Thank you.
Other questions?
yeah.
Bev has, I don't know if, Bev, she says, ha, she says, S lady doesn't respond to me even when the phone is face up. There's not is there a setting to
There
turn?
is a
There is
setting.
a setting, yes, for sure. My wife deliberately disables the well, it used to be hey S lady, and then it was just S lady. And you definitely can turn that off. It's in on iOS, it's in the settings. Now Apple Intelligence and Siri. I don't know which version you're on.
Where, but under general? Here. Okay, yeah, all right. Scroll down past general, Apple Intelligence and Siri. And if that's turned off, Bev, that might be why. Because I've got one that says allow that individual when locked.
Right.
Yeah. So that would be a reason, right?
Yeah, the allow when locked is one. So, if your iPhone is actually locked, which especially if you have the auto lock turned on, it'll disable it. Where are the settings? I thought the settings in here would be under talk and type to Siri, you'll want to check the settings that say
Right.
S lady or hey S lady or just hey S lady or off. My wife sets that to off because she only wants Siri to activate with the button. So if you've disabled that, that will also completely stop.
Well, I'm looking at my phone right now and it
Mhm.
off is checked, but I never checked it.
Well, you found the problem though. So
And I've been finding a lot of things that I never changed that were changed.
it happens. Yeah. Who knows? But
Okay.
Thank you.
that's it.
All right. Okay. Anybody else?
I have a question about hide my email.
Yeah.
I don't know when you sign up with the Apple email and you hide your email, if you ever have to answer one of their emails, but if you do, what name does it use?
It would provide I would hope and presume and I believe this to be true, but I probably should check it myself, that it would provide the alias response. So i.e. the email that you gave to that service. I would hope.
Okay.
Otherwise it'd be probably not that useful, I would imagine.
Right.
You might be able to change that, or actually, if you're responding in an email, you should be able to check that and see what email address you're sending from, right? Wouldn't you be able to just? Am I making sense?
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
Good, because you can go to that little down triangle, and if I'm responding to somebody.
According to Mac Power users, who I believe,
Right.
the answer is no. It will actually reply from your normal regular email address. So something maybe to be careful and watch out for.
That doesn't sound right.
Essentially what Apple has done is put together an extra email alias in their systems. Looking at one or two of my own, it has an email address in this case of horrible incomprehensibility at privaterelay.appleid.com.
Right.
So any mails that are dealt with are sent to that address, and it just automatically aliases and forwards that to my normal mac.com address.
But when you respond.
So when you respond, it is probably going to go from your original account rather than from the alias.
Well, not
exactly
right, because when you do a reply, you still have the pull down menu in the from field. At the very bottom of that, it says hide my email.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
But you would have to manually select that, correct?
Right.
Correct.
It's not auto selected.
There's the key.
Okay. but it's available to you.
And-
Yes.
And I would assume that's true, like my sister has a hidden email on DuckDuckGo. So I would assume that she would have to do the same thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume the default would be exactly, um, by default, because it's in your whatever account was receiving that email. In this case, your iCloud account, right? Your normal, if you just hit reply, it's going to want to reply from that account. Yeah, so absolutely, you're going to want to make sure you double check that from and pull it down. I don't know if that be nice if they would make that. I don't know if it's a setting or not. Be nice if they would make that a setting that says if I receive from an aliased account, respond to the from an aliased account. But
Right.
I don't think that's a setting that's available currently.
Hmm.
Yeah. That may run afoul of Digital Markets Act.
But
Oh.
that's EU though, right?
Yes, but there are some equivalencies in the US already in place.
All right.
Yeah. But great. That's a great tip. I might actually steal that one for our next Mac Geek Gab, if I'm being honest. I didn't know that Mail had that reply option under the two to choose hide my email. And it says creates a random email address that forwards to your inbox. So that's a great tip. Thank you.
Yeah. Good.
That's Robert.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's
All righty.
All right. Few last little housekeeping things. Thank you all for having me here.
thank you.
If you have additional questions outside of this, I'm happy to answer those. I probably should have put my Geek Gab email. It's Adam at macgeekgab.com, but also maccast@gmail.com works. And then you can find me on the Mac Geek Gab podcast, which is at macgeekgab.com, and also Mac Geek Gab on your favorite podcast app.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah,
Yay.
thank you, Adam.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I always enjoy hanging out with you folks.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
Good group.